Okay, in this video, I'm going over matchups after UFC Fight Night Saudi Arabia that I think would either be fun or that I think the UFC is going to happen. I'm just going to do the main event, co-main event, and the feature fight. There's some interesting matchups that have come from this pretty trash card. So, we'll start with Imavov. I think that Imavov versus Khamzat Chimaev is super intriguing, and I think that should be the number one contenders fight. Although I think they are going to give Khamzat the title shot right after Dricus versus Sean Strickland. I think that's bound to happen. So we do this: we take out one of the contenders, and we make a super contender. We do Imavov versus Kyle Baralho. Both these guys have been on a tear coming up the rankings. Imavov just knocked out Izzy. Kyle just knocked out Cannonier. They aren't really on the same level. But if Imavov clears Baralho, then we have a clear contender. Or if Baralho beats up Imavov, we have the same thing. So I think this is the matchup to make since they're making Khamzat the next challenger. This just makes sense to me. It would be a sick fight. They have very similar skill sets, and I think that it would be a fucking war, to be honest. I don't really know who would win this fight either. This is really hard to predict, and I would go into it in further detail and watch back fights and stuff. At this point, right now, I'm just leaning Imavov just because of recency bias. But yeah, pretty cool fight. Next, Izzy. So Izzy, I don't really know. Fuck, I don't really know what to do with Izzy, to be honest, because there's no one that he can really fight that he hasn't already fought, beat, or lost against at this point. We could put him against the loser of Strickland versus Dricus, but I don't really like him getting all these opportunities so high up all the time. But there isn't really a guy coming up that would be in Israel Adesanya. We can't put. I don't think we can put him against the winner of Marvin Vettori Delidze. I don't think we can do that. I don't think we can put him against Brendan Allen. He's coming off a loss. Is he still really highly ranked? He's in a weird spot, but out of the just nicheness, it would be kind of funny. I think we should just do this. I think we should do Israel versus Costa too, because this fight it still has a little bit of weirdness in the air to it. Costa says he was wine drunk the night before. There's just some unanswered questions going into this matchup. I think it would just be funny to do this, to be honest. I don't see Izzy taking any other fights against any top because the only other option would be Baralho, but that only would work if Imavov fights Chimaev, which they're not going to do. So, in terms of rematches, I think this is the coolest one. He can't do Whitaker versus Izzy because they're friends or whatever now. I think this is perfect. I think you see what happens when Costa, when he's not drunk or whatever the fuck, goes against an Izzy that's kind of battle worn at this point. It's just kind of funny. I know Costa hasn't earned shit to be fighting the number 4 guy, but I don't know. I think it'd be funny. So this is pretty much a gimmick one, but whatever. It'd be funny to me. Next, Shara Bullet. So Shara just lost in pretty embarrassingly, I would say. He got outstruck pretty fucking badly. But I don't want to shoot him too far down the rankings. I'd rather keep him in the rankings. I'd rather propel him with a little hype boost against someone that's also super exciting if he manages to beat him. And if this guy beats him, he gets his aura back, which he just lost all of it in his last fight. I think it'll be Michael Pereira. Because Michael Pereira is very exciting when he's not gassed the fuck out and getting wrestle fucked. And there's no way Shara would do that. It would be a stand and bang fight. It would be super fun while it lasts. And if Shara wins, he gets a little bit of hype back. And if Michael Pereira wins, he gets a lot of hype back because he lost all of it in his last performance against Alexander Hernandez, who murdered him. So, yeah, I think this is a cool, super exciting striking battle. We could see some backflips from both fighters. This is a fight where we could see a double back, some spinning back fist, backflip at the same time. There's a lot that can happen in this fight, and I think it's the coolest striking fight matchup you can make at middleweight, to be honest, right now. So, yeah, I think this is cool for Shara. And it's a good way to like lean him back into the rankings without it forcing it. Because Michael Venom Page really ruined everything, didn't he? I don't know why I did do Page first. It's just how it lined up on the UFC page. But we have Page next, and he's going back down to welterweight, which I don't really see the point of. I think that's stupid to me. Like, why would he go back down to welterweight after ruining a prospect at middleweight? But whatever. But at welterweight, you could put him against a contender just like a little bit higher than him. But I don't know. There's some fighters in the division that don't really have matchups that you don't really know what to put them against. And this one has always been kind of the matchup that people kind of want to see. I've never really wanted to see it that much until kind of now, because what else do you do with this fighter? I do think you kind of make this. I think you make Stephen Wonderboy versus Michael Venom Page and have that karate style versus karate style fight. They're both relatively old. They both have that style. It would probably end up being a boring fight, but just the matchup in general is kind of a spectacle, and it would shoot Michael up the rankings a bit, and it would be a pretty good final fight for Stephen Wonderboy. You don't want to put him against someone shit, to be honest. I don't like that idea. And also don't like the idea of putting Steven against a wrestler at all. So I think this is perfect. You put Paige against Steven, have it be boring as fuck, or honestly, I think Steven probably gets chinned, but at this point, or maybe Steven miraculously counters Venom Page. That would be dope too. There's just a lot of weird possibilities that could happen with this matchup, but probably it'll just end up being boring. But I do think this is what you do with Michael Venom Page going forward. I don't think you put him against just a guy that's a little bit up the rankings. He has a pretty strong name, and I think you do this. Even though it's not super cool for me, just because I think it will be boring, and I don't want to see Stephen Wonderboy completely outclassed on the feet. That would be sad, which I think that would happen. Page is fucking insane on the feet. He's just too fucking cool. He's like a super fast, tall version of Steven. So it would just be bad for him, I think. But yeah, next. Sergey Pavlovich. He's coming off a win against Drizzy Rodstreak. That was super fucking boring. And you kind of have to put him up the rankings, I think. But I don't really. There's two matchups in mind, and I'll go over them after I reveal them. So these two, Cyril Gane or Jailton Almeida. I would prefer for Jailton Almeida versus Cyril Gane to be made, as long as Tom Aspinall versus John Jones is made. There's little things that have to happen in order for these matchups to work out. John Jones has to fight Tom Aspinall. I mean, if that happens, I want Cyril Gane versus Jailton Almeida. I want that to be the fight. That's cool to me because it tests Cyril Gane's grappling. If that doesn't happen, I'd rather see Sergey versus... Okay, never mind. If this does happen, if Tom Aspinall versus John Jones does happen, I don't know what you do with Sergey at that point. But if it doesn't, I think if John Jones versus Tom Aspinall doesn't happen, Sergey versus Cyril Gane, not that. Fuck. Cyril Gane versus Tom Aspinall. There we go. My bad. Tom Aspinall versus Cyril Gane is the fight you make, and if that fight gets made, you do Sergey versus Jailton Almeida. Otherwise, I think you do Sergey versus Cyril Gane because it would be just fun in general. That is confusing. I either want him to fight Jailton Almeida or Cyril Gane. Just how it's going to work out. Either one is fine with me. It tests them either way. Cyril Gane versus Sergey Pavlovich is interesting because it's just a fun fight in general, a fun striking fight. And then him versus Jailton Almeida makes sense to me, just rankings-wise. Jailton Almeida versus Cyril Gane is really the matchups that I want, though. But it really comes down to Jones and Tom Aspinall. That was stupid, and I apologize. But, yeah, either one of those two. Next, Drizzy. So there's rumors he got cut, I think. I don't know if that's confirmed, but if he didn't get cut, this is a gimmick fight I would want to see. I would want to see Drizzy Rosenstruck versus Derek Lewis. I know Derek Lewis is probably going to have a fight coming up, but it would be really funny to make this matchup after Derek Lewis is either coming off a win or a loss even. Just to have this in the cage one time would be super funny to me. Just to have Derek Lewis versus Drizzy standing side by side in the octagon would be awesome because it would be a mirror match and it would be funny to me. But and it would be an interesting matchup. You have the technical ability of Drizzy on the feet being technical and like backing up and jabbing and leg kicking, and then you have Derek Lewis just pretty much running in there throwing as hard as he fucking can. It would be an interesting dynamic, interesting style matchup, and they would look pretty much the same, and it would be kind of funny. So yeah, because I'm always confused. I like when I before I was a super duper duper hardcore fan, I would confuse the two a little bit. So at least off first glance. So yeah, those are the matchups I want to see after UFC Fight Night, Adesanya versus Imavov, and I think that's about it. I'll see you soon.